everybody, into a brand new episode of the Brickyard Live Show. We are coming to you live on YouTube. We appreciate you watching, whether it's after the fact or live with us right now. And today, we're going to cover some of the preseason drama, go over the top 32 QBs that was voted on by the NFL execs. We're also going to be previewing the NFC West and so much more NFL news. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you stay till the end. But leading into the show last week, we gave you our top 5 best coaches in the NFL. We gave you our top 5 worst coaches in the NFL. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing the top 5 receivers of the 2020s. You are going to be doing the top 5 receivers heading into the 2025-2026 season. So back with another incredible list. Brick Jameson, the top 5 wide receivers heading into 2025.
I cannot wait. We got the NFC West covering all teams there. We got 5 teams with early warning signs. We got the top quarterbacks list, and then a whole lot more. What we've been watching, you're not going to want to miss it.
Yeah, so lead us in with your top 5 wide receivers. Let everyone know who the top 5 wide receivers in 2025 are going to be.
Yes. So my list, I think, is very fair, very honest, as we are on the Brickyard Show. I think it's important that, there's a lot of great wide receivers in the NFL. So, honorable mentions who did not make the cut, but I think deserve a shout out. The great Tyreek Hill, I think ultimately still up in there in the upper echelons of wide receivers, but he is aging. Last year looked like he was regressing slightly, so I have him off this list. Mike Evans is another guy I have off this list, just barely. Deserves his respect, but I think there's better receivers in the league right now. And then some up and coming guys that I think could be on this list eventually. I have Puka Nakoa and Malik Neighbors as potential people to be on this list in the future. But at number 5, I have our generation's Larry Fitzgerald. At number 5, I have none other than the sun god, the bright lights of Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 5. Mr. Reliable. He's not quite like the deep threats that I'm going to have later on this list, but the amount of excellence that he's exuded over the last 3 years being with the Lions and being the focal point of that offense, I have him at number 5. At number 4, I have Super Bowl winning wide receiver. Really helped open up the game for Jalen Hurts. Number 4, I have A.J. Brown, deep threat, physical receiver, can do pretty much anything on the field. He's here at my number 4. Once when we get to the top 3, I feel like they're interchangeable, but any given year. At number 3, I have Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson has on pace to be the next Randy Moss statistically. He was a little banged up over the last 2 years. His quarterback situation's a little bit rocky, and I have seen him when it comes to the top elite corners in the NFL get shut down, i.e. the Jair Alexanders of the world and Jalen Ramsey's of the past. So I have him just below these other two guys. At number 2, I have CD Lamb. Had one of the best statistical wide receiver seasons, not only for the Dallas Cowboys, but in NFL history last year. Really carried the Cowboys offense. And I think he's the pillars of excellence. You can put him at number 1 if you want to. But nobody, and I mean nobody, takes over NFL games quite like Jamar Chase. You have the tandem of the LSU brothers with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I've seen Jamar Chase go for 250 yards countless times. He's part of the reason why they almost made the playoffs last year. Maybe this year they'll actually make the playoffs because they're going to have to score 50 points a game, which means he's on pace for 3,000 receiving yards next year. So at the number 1 spot for the best wide receiver in the NFL, Mr. Jamar Chase.
Well, Jamar Chase, another incredible list. Some say he is a more polished Tyreek Hill, which is absolutely dangerous, but I've definitely seen him go out there and take over games. And when him and Joe Burrow are cooking, sometimes it can make up for the fact that the Bengals have no defense here. And I know Shamar Stewart, he hit Joe Burrow in practice today, and a massive fight broke out. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did see that. Get your hands off of Joe Burrow. That's literally your playoffs. If he goes down, they're going to go 1-16. So please, for the love of God, protect that man with bubble wrap. We need you on the field.
especially in practice too, and Joe Burrow has had a couple like injuries already, where he's had a wrist injury before, and then he's already had a knee injury where he missed his rookie season and he wasn't able to play because he had an injury there. So, like, why are you hitting Joe Burrow in practice? I don't understand. So, I guess rightfully so, a fight broke out.
Yeah, plus this is the same guy that had contract disputes with the Bengals a couple of weeks ago that just finally got resolved. So it's not his Bengals tenure has not got off to a great start. Maybe he can actually help that defense not be the worst defense in the league next year.
Yeah, but we will see. But I'm going to be going over the top five quarterbacks of the 2020 so far. So this is going to be factoring in some of the best seasons so far and overall just the best stats, some of the most dominant receivers in the 2020s. So at number five, well, he doesn't have the body of work over the past half decade as all these other receivers. He did have one of the best wide receiver seasons of all time, winning the Triple Crown and then also winning the Super Bowl MVP in his 2021 standout season. I have Cooper Kupp here. So I have Cooper Kupp at the bottom just because he's had 1,947 yards and 16 touchdowns, but that was pretty much all in 2021, and he hasn't had the totality as all the other receivers. So while he has had maybe the most dominant season, that's why he's a little bit lower on this list here. But at number four, Mr. Consistency, and some people honestly be surprised on his stats compared to some of the other receivers here, but Mike Evans, year after year after year, he has had 1,000 yard seasons. 2021, he went for 1,006 yards, 13 touchdowns. 2021, he had 1,035 yards, 14 touchdowns. And he's gotten better and better each year. And even last year, when he was injured, he went for 1,004 yards and still got 11 TDs, which was tied for fourth in the NFL after missing a pretty good chunk of time last year. So overall, he's had 5,424 yards and 57 touchdowns. And he's just been one of the most underrated and most consistent wide receivers in the league. He's the ultimate professional. So I definitely think that Mike Evans deserved a shout out on this list. So at number four, we have Mike Evans. At number three, someone else who is on your top five, we have Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase has didn't play in 2020. He came into the league in 2021, but he has 5,425 yards and 46 touchdowns. So Mike Evans has 11 more touchdowns than him and pretty much the same exact amount of yards as Jamar Chase with one less season of production. That's with Jamar Chase missing some time with some injuries. So he's just stepped into the league and become one of the most dominant wide receivers. He helped them in that Super Bowl run, helped them topple over the Kansas City Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. So at number three, in the 2020s, we have Jamar Chase. At number two, we have Justin Jefferson. What has Justin Jefferson done? I don't know. He only averages the most yards per game of all time of any other wide receiver. So he has 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2020. 2021, he went for 1,616 yards and 10 touchdowns. And he has, over those 4 seasons, he has 7,432 yards and 40 touchdowns so far in 2020 through 2024. So Justin Jefferson stepped into the league, and now career-wise, he averages the most yards per game, and he's dealt with some injuries as well. So definitely an impressive body of work, but no one can hold a candle to what Tyreek Hill has done, maybe being not only the most dominant wide receiver, but one of the most dominant NFL players of all time, especially when it comes to the wide receiver quarterback, because you have Justin Jefferson. He's played with Kirk Cousins, who is a good NFL quarterback, and he's a nice
Hall of
pro.
Famer.
You have Jamar Chase, who's played with Joe Burrow. Mike Evans has played with Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield, both really good quarterbacks. Cooper Kupp had Matthew Stafford when he won the Triple Crown. But Tyreek Hill had Patrick Mahomes. But for 3 of these seasons, he's been playing with Tua. And in 2021 and 2020 with KC, he had respectively a little over 1,200 yards. When he went to Miami, he went from pretty much getting 1,200 yards to 1,700 yards in 2022 and 2023. He has 6,983 yards and 50 touchdowns, and that is with arguably the worst quarterback out of any of these players the past 3 years. So at number one, Tyreek Hill taking the top for the 2020 so far.
I didn't realize that Tyreek Hill has had nearly 7,000 receiving yards over the last 5 years, with injuries last year, by the way. I didn't realize Justin Jefferson also has the most receiving yards in NFL history either.
Yards per game. Yeah.
Yards per game. That is absurd. All of these guys are extremely dominant. All of these guys will be in the Hall someday. Excellent list, though.
And then we had 50 NFL executives. So this includes GMs and some people in the organization, whether from GMs to presidents, vote on the 2025 quarterbacks heading into this year. So this is going to be a list where there's 34 quarterbacks here, and then we'll work our way from the bottom to the top, and then we'll see if we agree with this list. So at number 34, doesn't really matter too much, but they put Kenny Pickett.
Yes, Morgan Wallen. I think he
Morgan,
belongs there.
yeah, Morgan Wallen keeping his run on the top 10 on the billboard here, but he's dropping all the way down to number 34. And then above Morgan Wallen, though, they voted Spencer Rattler.
I think Kenny Pickett deserves maybe to be above Spencer Rattler, but we're comparing two piles of shit, so I don't think it really matters too much.
And then another Cleveland Browns quarterback making his way to the list. And honestly, I already have a massive disagreement with this, especially with who is above this quarterback, but they put Joe Flacco at number 31.
I disagree. Comeback player of the year, had an absolute Flacco run with the Browns a couple of years ago. He deserves to be above them, especially the fact that he has a Super Bowl ring. He's had over 40,000 passing yards. He's not quite the same quarterback he used to be, but I don't think he deserves to be the third worst.
No, he doesn't deserve to be the third worst because right above him at number 30 is Daniel Jones. And they
Oh,
ranked him over Anthony Richardson, who's also on his team.
oh my God. That's crime. That is a crime. His highest season was 15 touchdowns. Joe Flacco threw 15 touchdowns in 6 games that 1 year.
Yeah,
That's insanity. What has Daniel Jones done for us lately? We don't know.
nothing. And then above Daniel Jones and Joe Flacco, at number 29, they put JJ McCarthy, who hasn't even stepped on an NFL field yet. That's how
Yeah.
much they hate Joe Flacco. That's how much they hate Daniel Jones. And he's also still above Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler as well. Not even played yet.
Hasn't even played yet, and he's number 29. Above a guy who has won a Super Bowl, in that Super Bowl beating Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, by the way.
Yeah, two of the goats.
Disgusting.
And then right above JJ McCarthy at number 28, they put Michael Penix. Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, he hasn't proved anything. That's fine.
But at number 27, which I also disagree with Joe Flacco being ranked under, Justin Fields.
Look, we love Jesus on this show, but does he deserve to put the Jets quarterback above Joe Flacco, a guy who had a better run in New York than Justin Fields so far? I disagree with that. Yes, he can run. Yes, he's had 1,000-yard season, but he can't throw the football, which you need to do that as a quarterback who throws the football at least 25 times a game. Disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a solid running back here, but I would definitely put Joe Flacco above Justin Fields. And honestly, I hate to be that guy, but you could argue that Michael Penix is better than him too, and Daniel Jones.
I can agree with that.
And then right above Justin Fields at number 26, they put Russell Wilson here, and this is where the list gets very wonky. Very wonky.
Just okay. Well, Russell Wilson, I can't leave the Denver era out of my mind. There's a reason why they took an $85 million cap hit. I think he belongs to be below, like low on this list, so I'm okay with him at 26, depending on who they have above him.
All right. And then right above him, they have Kirk Cousins, who finished the year out horrendously last season.
That run was honestly almost so bad that he almost got kicked out of the Hall of Fame, which he's bound to be in someday. So, and I mean, we've had some great Kirk Cousins runs, but the current state of Kirk Cousins, I think I would take Russell Wilson currently.
Yeah, I would probably still kind of take Russell Wilson here. He was announced that he's going to be the Giants starting quarterback, but we will definitely see on that one. And then right above Russell Wilson, or right above Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson, they have Bryce Young.
Yeah, I would have rather have Bryce Young. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Although
And then
statistically, though, these other guys have been better. So Bryce Young, I believe in, but I don't know. He's losing faith.
right above Bryce Young at number 23, they put Caleb Williams.
Okay, at 21, that's I mean the way he played last year, that's fine. I don't think he's going to stay that low though. I think he'll go up in these rankings next year.
Yeah, no, hopefully Caleb Williams goes up from there. But right above Caleb Williams at number 22, they put Drake May.
Interesting. Okay. Drake May has shown more promise so far. Caleb Williams has the talent. Drake May has done more with less so far, and they just got him a solid running back. They got Stephon Diggs for him, and they drafted um, a nice receiver as well. So I'm okay with him being ahead of Caleb Williams currently. Will they stay that way? We don't know.
All right, so at number 22, Drake May. And then tied at number 20, they have Sam Darnold and Bo Nix neck and neck, which
I
I
think
don't think is fair.
I think you could put Sam Darnold below that. I think you can put them you can put him below Drake May and Caleb Williams just simply for upside. I mean, what do those guys not have in common with Sam Darnold? They didn't see ghosts on the field. So, therefore I think they should be above him.
Yeah, I don't know why Sam Darnold is this high. Like, he had a really good record with the Minnesota Vikings last year, but if we're basing it off of previous years, like, you could still put Joe Flacco above him, arguably, and Kirk Cousins still.
I would agree. Last year his season was like he played well last year. I believe he was in the comeback player of the year conversation, but I still think that he's not a he should be in the bottom 10 quarterbacks.
All right, and then right above Sam Darnold and Bo Nix, who are tied at number 20, we have Geno Smith.
That's fine. I'm okay with Geno Smith being there at night. You said he's at 19 or yeah, he's at 19.
19. Yeah.
That's fine. I think that's appropriate.
And then right above Geno, they put Trevor Lawrence, which honestly, I would put Drake May and Caleb Williams above him just for upside at this point because we've already been disappointed by Trevor Lawrence so many times. He had one really good performance, and half of that performance he played horrible in the first half. And then credit for him to coming back, but he really has one really good game that's just been carrying him. And then also what people expect him to be.
Yeah, I feel like Clemson's still in a lot of people's brains. He hasn't done anything in the NFL. He had like a 9-game stretch where he was relatively elite, and then he beat the Chargers with Brandon Staley, perpetual chokers. So I think honestly, there's other quarterbacks that I would put above him currently because honestly, he's been probably been the most disappointing first round pick so far.
Yeah, I thought like Bo Nix was more consistent than he'd ever been last year, so you could argue Bo Nix over him at this point. And then at number 17, I think this is pretty fair, but Tua, like rounding out the not franchise quarterbacks, but also kind of a franchise guy. I feel like 17 is actually perfect for Tua.
Yeah, I feel like you could argue him maybe like top 15 or 16, but I feel like would be pulling hairs. I'm fine with him being 17.
And then right above Tua, we have Aaron Rodgers.
That's fine. That's at the current state of Aaron Rodgers, I think that's appropriate.
And then above Aaron Rodgers, we have Kyler Murray at number
Okay.
15.
Okay. I mean, I was looking at Kyler's stats. You know, he's never thrown for 4,000 yards in his career. And
That's sad.
the most touchdowns he's thrown is 26.
I was gonna
So
guess 25.
yeah, he's been. I mean, he's been the epitome of average. Like he can run, which is great. He's had like one really good season, at least the first half of that season. But he's shown that he's just average, which is why the Cardinals are also average.
Yeah, it's almost like having a quarterback that can't see over his own offensive line and make a check down pass in the middle of the field is a bad thing. Who would have thought?
It reminds me of like if the Globetrotters did football and you just had a midget as a quarterback, and seeing what would happen when you have fucking 7 feet tall people ahead of him.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's honestly like the epitome of a Bears quarterback. And I compared him to Jay Cutler like before it was cool and everyone lost their mind, but looking pretty good now.
It's aged well. I'll give you that.
And then I feel like way too low on this list. At number 14, we have Brock Purdy.
I think he deserves some respect. Like maybe he's not top 10, but I think you should put him top 12, you know? Like he's them to a Super Bowl. He's made multiple conference championship games. I understand he's had a lot of talent around him, but he's also been clutch as well. So this feels a little bit harsh.
Yeah, because why would you put Dak Prescott over Brock Purdy? Like, Dak Prescott has never won more than 2 playoff games in a season before, and Brock Purdy has gotten to a Super Bowl already, and he's already totaled Dak Prescott's wins and gotten to a Super Bowl, and he beat the Lions and had an epic comeback, which he played a huge hand in. And say what you will about Brock Purdy, like, oh, he has a lot of talent around him, like, okay. So did Peyton Manning. So did Aaron Rodgers. So does every single quarterback who gets to the Super Bowl and wins. Ben Roethlisberger had a lot of talent. Like having a lot of talent around you is not an argument against a quarterback. It's what do you actually do with that talent? And what he has done has been Mr. Irrelevant and been one of the last picks in the draft and gotten to the Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers and been Mr. Consistent as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But right above Brock Purdy at number 13, I'm fine with this. They have Jordan Love.
Okay. I would I would argue Jordan Love is top 10, but he has been hurt. He does throw a lot of interceptions. So I'm fine with him being in that 13 range, but I think he's definitely due to go higher on this list in the future.
And then right above uh, Jordan Love, we have Dak Prescott. And I feel like
Nope.
number 12 is good for him, but I would honestly still put Jordan Love and Brock Purdy above Dak because who is the quarterback that went on the road as the underdog who everyone said had no shot at winning, but we predicted he would win in Dallas and absolutely eviscerated the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott did absolutely nothing about it? Who would that be? Oh, both the quarterbacks right below him.
Yes, absolutely. I think Dak Prescott, you look at his numbers and they're good, but the problem is like there's one thing to have numbers, but when the numbers really matter, like if it's a fourth quarter drive and you're delivering on those, then great. But Dak Prescott has not shown to be clutch, and he shows that he doesn't show up in the playoffs either. So he should be penalized for that, and that's why I think Jordan Love and Brock Purdy should be above him.
Yeah, honestly, I would put him probably at number 14 here. I'm fine with him being above Kyler and Aaron Rodgers just because we don't never know what Aaron we're going to get. But honestly, just looking at this list, Dak Prescott could drop out of the top 18 quarterbacks realistically this season.
He could very well
But right above Dak Prescott, and I'm happy this quarterback is here, none other than Baker Mayfield.
at 11. That's fine.
11.
That's appropriate. I think, yeah, honestly, Baker's right on that fringe top 10 list. And I mean, he threw the most touchdowns in the NFL last year, and he's gotten it done even with injuries to a lot of the players last year. So finally getting the love he deserves, ultimately. So I love it.
And then this is a weird tie, or because tied for ninth. So instead of a top 10, we have a tie in the vote is CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts at number 10 or 9.
I think Jalen Hurts is a little low, don't you think? The guy that just won the Super Bowl. I understand he has a lot of help, but Jalen Hurts has been clutch and he's delivered. And I think he deserves to be. I mean, I'm glad he's in the top 10, but I feel like he should be above CJ.
Yeah, no, Jalen Hurts below Justin Herbert is absolute wild work. That's criminal. You're
Is
putting
he? Do they got
you're
Justin Herbert next?
no. They don't have Justin Herbert next. They have another quarterback who is better than Justin Herbert next at number 8, Jared Goff, who I'm happy is in the top 10. I'm happy he's getting some recognition, but sure, does Justin Herbert have a bigger arm than Jared Goff? Yes. But has Jared Goff been wildly more successful in the NFL than Justin Herbert and actually shown some fight and some leadership in Detroit, which is a massive quality of being a quarterback and should be taken into consideration when this guy is supposed to be the leader of your team, where most quarterbacks are not only the best player, but they're the best leader. So, like, not only should Jalen Hurts be above probably Jared Goff and Justin Herbert, who's ranked number 7 on this list, but Jared Goff should also be above Justin Herbert on this list just for the fact of his leadership qualities on its own.
I would agree with that. Justin Herbert, he has the stats. Like he's in a similar predicament as Dak Prescott. Like he can put up numbers, which is great. And I know that he hasn't always had a great receiver core either. And the talent's absolutely there. But the problem is that you've been to the playoffs twice, and the first time you blew a 27-0 lead, which is partially your fault. And then the other end, you threw 4 interceptions against the Texans last year when your team probably should have won. Like you had a better defense, and granted, your receivers weren't amazing, but you threw 4 picks. Like the reason why you lost that game was because you had a total turd of a game. So Justin Herbert, the only reason why he's getting all this appreciation is because you can see the talent there, but it doesn't matter if you don't deliver when it matters.
Yeah, no, it's like they're hallucinating Justin Herbert being a really good quarterback, but I wouldn't even put him above Dak just because Dak has been more consistent, and I wouldn't put him above Baker either. And then CJ Stroud had an inferior team to you last year, and the Chargers had that one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think they had the best regular season defense in the league. And
They
then the
did.
Texans were able to, with one receiver, go out there and beat you. And then you threw 4 interceptions in that game. So Justin Herbert at number 7, I feel like is way too high. I don't think he's earned being a top 10 quarterback in the league just yet. I'm not saying he's not talented enough, but he just hasn't earned that.
Yeah, he hasn't done it. I mean, he's made the playoffs twice now, and he's been in the league for now going to be 6 years. And honestly, like that playoff game where he threw 4 picks, like they were still in that game. Their defense did their part. They shut down the Texans offense. I think the game was like 20-12 ultimately. So even if you throw one of those interceptions away and you can actually deliver and move the ball down the field, you probably win that game and you're on to the next round. And who knows in the NFL. So yeah, I don't agree with him at number 7. Maybe number 10, but not number 7.
And then at number 6, we have Jaden Daniels.
Okay. I'm okay with that. You can argue he's top 5, but I think he hasn't been in the league long enough. So 6 is fine. I think he deserves that.
Yeah, I think 6 is fine for him. He needs to prove a little bit more. We'll see how he handles it if Terry McLaurin does, in fact, get traded. I feel like that could definitely cause him to have a similar year to what CJ Stroud did last year, where he kind of had a little bit of a sophomore slump and then was able to snap out of it in the first round of the playoffs. So I think 6 is fine, especially with how he turned around the Commanders last year. Um, and then at number 5, we have Matthew Stafford, which I'm a little bit confused by because we dropped Aaron Rodgers to 16, presumably just because of health. So Matthew Stafford has already had an aggravated disc in his back. So I'm a little bit confused why he's at number 5 with some injury issues.
Look, I love Matthew Stafford. He's great, Hall of Famer by all means. Happy that he's had success on the Rams. But I feel like the media and especially apparently the NFL execs want to push him higher in the top 5 when I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback. I think there's other quarterbacks that we've already talked about, like the Jalen Hurts of the world, like even the Jaden Daniels of the world, CJ Strouds of the world, that I think deserve to be higher. He's absolutely a top 10 quarterback. Like put him at like 7 or 8, maybe 9, and I'm okay with it. But I don't think he's top 5. He's got the talent, but I don't think at this point in his career he's top 5.
Yeah, I think if he has another really good year this year, I would think he can be top 5. But for me, he's always kind of permanently been locked into that number 6 spot. Like when you had like Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady kind of as your de facto top quarterbacks. Then you sub in someone like Cam Newton, for a season. Someone else who'd have like a really big year, but I feel like he's always kind of just been the number 6 quarterback, and I feel like it would have been fine if you just kept him there for this list.
Yeah, I can agree.
But at number 4, we have Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I mean, these other guys, like the guys that are coming ahead of him, like they've had their MVPs, they've had, more playoff success for the most part. So, number 4, I think the impact that he's had on the game, I think he deserves to be higher. But if we're arguing the 4 best quarterbacks in the league, you can kind of go interchangeable. I have seen Lamar have a few meltdowns as well. So 4 is fine, but I think his influence should put him higher.
Yeah, I think his influence should put him higher, but I do think all 3 quarterbacks above him are better because as much as I hate to say it, Josh Allen has at least gotten to the conference championship and at least he was close last year where when the Ravens made it to the conference championship against the Chiefs, they absolutely melted down and they look like a complete shell of themselves, which can, default on Lamar, especially since Lamar Jackson has publicly said he hates playing Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that is true. I also think that these other guys like have either beaten Mahomes or they've had some of the greatest playoff games of all time against him. So all of these guys. Meanwhile, Lamar does have a blemish on his resume playoff wise. He's made it to a conference championship, but you've also seen in multiple playoff games where people scheme him correctly and he can't adjust from it.
Yeah, and maybe that's a Lamar issue, could be a John Harbaugh issue as well. Only time will tell there. But at number 3, we have Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, okay, this is fine. I think, you can put him 2 or 3, but if you want to, like, I think 3 is fine. He did just win the MVP. His knock is currently that he keeps running into Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. The only playoff losses he's had are against Mahomes and Burrow. I think he has a loss against Deshaun Watson in Houston, but he keeps running into the same guy and he's not beating him. So ultimately, he needs to get over the hump before he's ahead of
Yeah,
anybody else.
currently the James Harden of the NFL. His one flaw was running into the Warriors year in and year out when he was in his prime. And I feel like that's a fair comparison. But at number 2, there isn't a number 2 quarterback because the number 1 quarterback is tied with Joe Burrow and
Oh,
Patrick Mahomes.
okay. I think you can put Joe Burrow at 2. He hasn't made the playoffs consistently, um, but he has beaten Mahomes in the playoffs, which only him and Jalen Hurts and the active quarterbacks have done so. So that's okay. And I mean, last year he threw for what, 45 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. So he should have been. I
Yeah.
mean, if their team had a defense, he would have been the MVP by far last year, statistically.
Yeah, if they're in the playoffs, like he had the best individual season as a quarterback last year. He just wasn't able to make the playoffs. But some of that is on him because there's a couple games where you can point to where he had the ball and he wasn't able to finish the job, whether it was the Patriots game where they only scored 10 points, whether it was both Ravens games. He had a chance to win the game, and he wasn't the one that ended up making the play at the end of it. Ended up being Lamar Jackson. So I do think it's fair to put him at number 2 because neither Josh Allen nor Lamar have won a Super Bowl, and Joe Burrow did it with one of the worst offensive lines in the league as well. But I feel like just put Patrick Mahomes at number 1. There's just this weird stigma where people are trying to just take shots at the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and it's just not working and it feels forced.
Yeah, it does feel forced. It reminds me of the Patriots, back when Brady was at the peak of his powers. But I feel like Mahomes, it's more forced as well. Like, we know he's the best quarterback. He has one of the greatest playoff records of all time already. He's only 28 at this point. He's made it to multiple Super Bowls, won multiple Super Bowls. And, like, yeah, I know he just lost in the Super Bowl pretty badly, but he also delivered in all these other playoff runs prior. So he's obviously the number 1 quarterback. He's got all the rings, he's got all the accolades. He's, I think, already the second best quarterback of all time, arguably. So I think he should be number 1. Give him the respect he deserves.
But that is the top 100 quarterbacks, or not top 100 quarterbacks, Jesus. That's the top 34 quarterbacks according to 50 anonymous NFL execs. Let us know what you thought about it. Do you agree with some of our critiques of this list? What critiques or changes would you make to this list? Definitely let us know in the comments below. I'm excited to see what you think below. But today we are going over the last division we have in the NFL to preview. It's been exciting. Each year we do this. It's one of my favorite times of the year because it leads directly into the NFL season. And our last division to preview is the NFC West. It's going to be one of the weirdest divisions in the league, potentially the worst division in the league. And I feel like it could be a very early candidate for one of the just stinker divisions this year, especially if the Rams are having injury issues, the 49ers are having injury issues, the Seattle Seahawks just being kind of mid, the Cardinals also just kind of being mid, and then the Seahawks having a rookie head coach. It should add 2 wins historically, but overall, do you agree with my sentiment that this could very well be the worst division in the league?
I think it's definitely possible. I believe in the Rams. Like, I think the Rams are going to be a good team. But all these other teams, like, I don't believe in the Seahawks. I don't believe in the Cardinals ever, even though I'm wearing their jacket. And then the 49ers, to me, I feel like they're just really old and they're going through somewhat of a soft rebuild. So, really, you have three teams in this division that I don't think are going to be highly competitive. And then you have the Rams, where we don't know where they'll be. They historically start slow. So, I think I would agree with that, especially with what we have in the NFC right now with some of the other divisions. I would agree.
So I say you're doing the Cardinals and the 49ers. So let us get the cards out of the way, shall we? So when I say 2025, 2026 NFL Arizona Cardinals, what pops in your mind?
Mediocrity for a number of reasons. They have literally, according to the list we just went through, the most mediocre quarterback in the league, Kyler Murray, who, by the way, has never had a 4,000-yard season, never threw for more than 26 touchdowns, had one good half of a season, got him paid, and that's about it. If I know anything about the Cardinals with him, they're going to start off hot and then cool off at the end. Then we go through their running backs. You have James Conner, who is reliable, but ultimately their running back core is pretty mid. Their wide receiver core, you have Marvin Harrison, and the rest of them are very mid. Trey McBride's really good. Offensive line is mediocre, and their defense is also mediocre. So everything about this team is mediocre, and their head coach is also mediocre, maybe below average. So when I think about the Arizona Cardinals, I think of, you guessed it, mediocre. So my prediction is probably between 7 and 9 wins, most likely, but probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and as soon as November hits, Kyler Murray says duty calls, and then he checks out for the rest of the season. The one quarterback to put a film study clause in his contract.
Yes.
Unbelievable. But that's your early thoughts before you pick the Arizona Cardinals. And they start out on September 7th in the Big Easy, where Tommy Wiseau is allegedly from New Orleans. So Cardinals, Saints, 12 o'clock Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time.
I think the Cardinals are going to start off hot because I think a lot of these other teams aren't quite waking up yet. This is a game they have a pretty easy start to their season. Give me the Cardinals to win this game and get their first win on the board.
All right. And then the first game back in Glendale, Arizona, they face off against Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers, trying to continue their momentum into this season.
Yes, and their season starts off easy, as I mentioned. Two teams that I don't think are going to be amazing. I think they beat the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers fan base is going to travel, especially when it's still going to be, I don't know, 110 degrees at that point. So people don't like that, including me. So give me the Cardinals, home field advantage, finally. They get the win.
All right. And a team I feel like the Cardinals have struggled with over the past few years, the San Francisco 49ers, taking them on in Levi's Stadium at 4:25 Eastern.
Yes, and give me the record against the 49ers over the last 5 years. I'm going to pull this up real quick. The Cardinals are, they historically split with them, it looks like, historically. Early on in the season, starting to get the things in order here. They did sweep them this past year. So I'm going to have them beating the 49ers and being one of those 3-0 teams to start the season. Just give me the Cardinals.
All right, so Murph from Impractical Jokers is finally feeling good about his job heading into week 4. And then they go back to Glendale and they host the Seattle Seahawks. Is it going to be Sam Dangerous or Sam Howell?
We don't know. I think at this point, this is when we start to see them decline. I can't see them starting 4-0 because I just don't think their team is good enough. I think they'll probably split with the Seahawks. So give me the Cardinals to fall to the Seahawks on primetime.
All right, and that's Thursday night football, and then the week after that they host the Tennessee Titans.
And I think the Tennessee Titans are clearly in a rebuild. We'll see how good Cam Ward is, but Cardinals, it's at home. I think at this point, weather's starting to cool off. Give me the Cardinals to win this game.
All right, so starting out at an impressive 4-1, and then not only do they get to host the Titans, they go and they have the privilege of facing either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. Will
As long as
Daniel
they can,
Jones be the Shane Steichen, Sam Darnold this year? That is the question.
that is the question we all want to know. I think in this case, the Cardinals, their schedule is getting a lot harder moving forward. I will take them to beat the Colts in attendance here. I don't imagine this game is going to be highly sought after. You can buy tickets for as cheap as $30 if you'd like to. So give them to beat the Colts. They usually beat the Colts.
All right, so now they are 5-1, heading back to Arizona to host Green Bay.
And now something amazing is going on in the world at this point as we get closer to that ultimate point of the season. That's right. Black Ops 7 is soon to be released, and this is when the fall off of the Cardinals will soon begin. They're taking on the Green Bay Packers, who you had them at 14-3 in our Packers preview. Make sure to check that out. So they are not going to beat the Packers. They didn't beat them in our preview with the Packers, and they're not going to beat them in the Cardinals preview of the Cardinals. So give me them to fall to the Cardinals or to the Packers.
All right, and then they have a bye, and then on prime time they face off against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. Prime time in Jerry World, two curses for the Cowboys, especially with Dak Prescott.
And I remember the record against them being historically good against the Cowboys. Let me pull this up so I have it here. But their record historically against them is pretty good. He's 2-0 against the Cowboys in his career. I think history repeats itself on primetime. He beats the Cowboys.
All right, and so now the Cardinals go 6-2, and then they go to Seattle, who's the only loss so far.
And I'll have the Seahawks beating them this time. I think the record right now looks very exciting, but I also think that they are not this good. Their record is fraudulent. So I think the Seahawks, especially at home, can take care of business against the Cardinals.
Do you think the Seahawks sweep them?
I think the Seahawks sweep them in this case.
Okay. So they are 6-3, and then they face off against the San Francisco 49ers again for the second time.
And I know living in Arizona that there are a lot of San Francisco 49ers fans in the Arizona Valley. Probably going to be 80% 49ers fans. So this is probably an away game for them. I will take the 49ers.
All right. So now they drop to 6-4, but they get the privilege of hosting Rapunzel at at 4 o'clock Eastern time.
And just like in the tale, Rapunzel every once in a while does let down thy hair, and the prince does come. So the prince that is promised, I think, upsets the Cardinals, and we start to see the fall of the Cardinals. This is when Kyler Murray taps out. At this point, we're November 23rd. Black Ops has been out. It's probably double XP weekend. I will take the Jaguars.
All right, so now that Black Ops 7 is out, Kyler Murray has checked out as well, and it doesn't get any easier because then you go to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers.
And I think the Bucks are going to be really good this year. You have obviously Baker, who led the league in touchdowns last year. You have a much better defense on the other side. Bucky, the gas station, Irving, is also going to be behind the center as well. So I'm going to take the Bucks to beat them.
All right, shout out Bucky Irving, the gas station, trademarked here at the Brickyard. And then they host the LA Rams, where they probably have more fans in Arizona than in LA, oddly enough.
Yes, there is a lot of Rams fans here. And the Cardinals, if you remember the time they made the playoffs, do you remember them getting annihilated by the Rams?
How could you
They
forget?
they they cannot play the Rams. The Rams have always had their number. I think the Rams sweep them in this time around, so I think they beat them in week 14.
And then it doesn't get any easier because the following week they head to Houston to take on the Texans.
In Houston, we have a problem. The Arizona Cardinals are falling off faster than flies at this point. Houston with Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, plus you have CJ Stroud on the other side of the ball. I will take Houston to beat them.
All right, couple of midget hunters on the edges in Houston there, so they fall, and then they take on the Atlanta Falcons with Michael Penix. Maybe they are heating up. Maybe by this point they've traded their star tight end Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Armpits may still be on the team. We don't know. But they have lost a lot of games in a row. I think I've had them losing the last like 7 games. They're due for a win somewhere in there. So give me them to beat the Falcons.
All right, so they beat the Falcons, have 2 games left. Unfortunately, they play the Bengals after November starts.
Yeah. And by then, they are probably, at this point, they've woken up. And when Joe Burrow wakes up and Jamar Chase wakes up and Chase Brown wakes up, and dare I say, they're going to be ready to go. They're going to get annihilated. Bengals win.
Yeah, I am honestly concerned for Kyler Murray's health in this game because outside of the Seahawks game, this is going to be the only cold weather game that they play all year. You go from like November in Seattle to December Cincinnati, which can get pretty cold there. So I'm concerned for Kyler Murray at this point.
Yes. Yes, I would agree.
All right, so now you are 8-8, trying to fight being below average, and then you go to LA to face the Rams, who may be vying for a playoff spot.
They either are vying for a playoff spot or they've already clinched. We could see a Stetson Bennett sighting potentially. So, does it really matter if they win this game? I still don't think it matters because I think the Rams are going to win either way. So, give me them at 8-9. As I predicted, the Cardinals are going to be 8-9. I said they were average all across the board. 8-9 is very appropriate. Maybe they're 7-10. Shoot me if I'm wrong, but 8-9 is very accurate.
Yeah, I definitely think 8-9 is fair for the Arizona Cardinals. This team doesn't really move me. I can't see them going anywhere. It's not because generally Kyler Murray can't see over his own offensive line, but they care. Like, I feel like they will be fine. They'll have their moments here. Maybe there's an upset here or there, but they'll also have those games that they shouldn't lose either. And they improved on defense, but not enough for it to be dramatically big, where I don't see them winning some of these games like in Cincinnati at the end of the year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But on to the next NFC team. Who would you rather start with, the Niners or the Rams? Pick your poison.
Let's get the Seahawks out of the way.
The Seahawks. All right. When I tell you the 2025-2026 Seattle Seahawks, what comes to mind?
Uh, that's what comes to mind. It's like I'm concerned at the same time. It seems just I see scattered question marks across the board. You have a new rookie head coach who's known for defense. I don't love that. And then you have two quarterbacks who I'm not really in love with either. You're kind of in a rebuild year where you're transitioning away from the DK Metcalf era. You're officially away from the Legion of Boom era. No more DK Metcalf, no more Tyler Lockett, and now it's just Jackson Smith and Jigba there, and the hope that you can figure out a running game. But I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be better than Geno Smith for you on this team this year. So a lot of question marks, and I don't think they'll be even mediocre. But if I had to guess before I predict, probably somewhere in like the 5-12 to like 6-11 range.
I would agree. Like they got Cooper Cup, which is nice, but he's not the same player he once was. You have some nice players on defense. Like I like Devon Witherspoon and I like Tariq Woolen. Boy, Amafe is good as well, but it's just there's a lot to be desired with this team. So let's get started with the Seattle Seahawks. They start their regular season hoisting the San Francisco 49ers.
And I think the 49ers should start out strong because they're going to have to win a lot of games because health will definitely be a concern here. So give me the Niners to win the first matchup.
All right, so they are now 0-1. They go to Pittsburgh to take on the Ayahuasca Steelers and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, usually Aaron Rodgers has a terrible week one, kind of follows it up with a decent week two. So give me the Steelers to win this one. They should be able to win at home.
All right. And then they get the blessing of hoisting. Maybe it's Tyler Shaw, maybe it's Spencer Rattler, but New Orleans Saints comes to town.
All right, that's when they get their first win here. I'll have them moving to 1-2. Not many teams should lose to the New Orleans Saints next year. If you're a Saints fan, it's nothing personal, and you should honestly want to lose all of the games you can next year because you're going for Arch Manning.
Yes, I would agree. And then Thursday night football. This is in Arizona to take on the Cardinals.
And then you had them sweeping the Cardinals, so I have to stick with that for continuity. So they win that one, and they're now 2-2.
All right. And then schedule starts to pick up. They host Baker Mayfield and the Bucks.
They host Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. Give me Tampa Bay in that one.
The battle of the 2018 quarterbacks. Amazing to see.
Is it? Colin
And then,
Cowherd's wet dream.
yes. And then week 6, they go to Jacksonville to take on Rapunzel himself, Trevor Lawrence.
Oh my God, who do I hate more, Trevor Lawrence or Sam Darnold? For some reason, I hate Trevor Lawrence more at this point. He's one of those players where it's like semi okay with, and then now I'm just like, no, absolutely no more Trevor. I'm not even gonna pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to win a game this year. So give me the Seahawks to win. They go to 3-3.
So they are now 3-3, and their schedule is starting to pick up here. They are hoisting the Houston Texans.
Hosting the Houston Texans. Houston should win that one, so give me the Texans to win that one. Sam Darnold, Will Anderson on his ass, Daniil Hunter. It's going to be seeing a lot of ghosts, a lot of Sixth Sense references that week after that game.
Yes, very much so. And then they get a rest. They take a bye week, rest up, and prepare themselves to go to Washington to take on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders.
Yeah, and if there's no Terry McLaurin, maybe you have a shot, but we don't know officially yet. So give me the Commanders in this one.
All right. And then moving right along, they are hoisting the Cardinals in week 10.
All right. And they will win that one because you picked the Cardinals to win in that game as well.
All right. And then they go to LA to take on the Rams.
Go to LA to take on the Rams. Give me the Rams in this one.
All right. And then going to Tennessee, week 12, 1 o'clock slate to take on Cam Ward in the top 5 receiving core, according to Cam Ward, Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, and I think Cam Ward has shown some promise in preseason. I've just liked a lot of the sound bites from him so far. Seems like he has a lot of really good leadership qualities here. So I think the Titans are going to be going on a mini run at the end of the season. So give me Tennessee to win this one.
All right. And then week 13, they are hoisting J.J. McCarthy, J. Jeff, and the Vikings.
Yeah, give me the Vikings in this one. Um, for revenge of how bad Sam Darnold was in that first game versus the Rams in the playoffs last year. That was embarrassing.
The battle of Sam Dangerous versus J.J. McCarthy. This will go down in the history books, so I've heard. So they move on. On to the next week, they say. They go to Atlanta to take on Michael Penix and the Falcons.
Yeah, and the Falcons will probably actually be playing for something at this point, so give me the Falcons.
All right. And then week 15, we don't even know who the quarterback will be in week 15 for the Colts. Could be Daniel Dimes, could be AR 15, week 15 against the Colts.
Yeah, give me Seattle in that one.
All right. And then week 16, they finish up their series against the Rams on primetime Thursday night football. Matty Stafford, Sam Darnold, get excited.
Yeah, I think the Rams will sweep the Seattle Seahawks next season. So give me the Rams to win on Thursday Night Football, and then the Seahawks move to 5-10.
Not looking good for them. And then we have a revenge game. Get excited for Sam Darnold. How dare you let go of me, Carolina Panthers? Give me the revenge game. Sam Darnold versus the Panthers. Bryce Young, Sam Darnold, riveting television.
Where is this?
This is in Carolina.
Yeah, no. Give me the Carolina Panthers in this one.
All right. Not looking good, but they end the season in San Francisco with the Niners.
End it with the Niners at this point. Niners might be playing for the division with the Rams here. Uh, Give me the Niners to win.
All right. So you have
They
the
go
Niners.
5-12.
We have them sweeping the 49ers sweeping the Seahawks. Seahawks are 5-12. I think this is fine. I mean, the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, not inspired by him. Drew Lock, not inspired by him. Running game, we like Kenneth Walker, but I just think there's a lot of things on this plate for this team. They are in a rebuild. I think this is right, ultimately.
Yeah, so far we have the Cardinals going 8-9, and then we have the Seattle Seahawks at 5-12. Up next, we are doing the San Francisco 49ers schedule. When I say 2025-2026 San Francisco 49ers, what do you think of?
I think of Medicare and Band Aids. This team is so old at this point. We have Christian McCaffrey. I don't even know how old is Christian McCaffrey? 30 at this point? He's going to be 30 by the end of this year. You have George Kittle, who's also old. Kyle Juszczyk, also very old. Your defense now with Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. Your team, I think, if it's all fully healthy, will be very good. But your team is old, and I'm looking at your depth chart currently. Just your first string players. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players questionable for the next preseason game. Now, what does that mean? We don't know. But already showing worrying signs of injury. They're older. Is Kyle Shanahan the answer at head coach at this point? Are they starting to lose the locker room? We don't know. But I think they'll be competitive. I think they'll be in the playoff hunt. Will they make it? We'll see.
Yeah, the other big question for the San Francisco 49ers, too, is their wide receiver core. And then also, George, I don't know if you saw this, but have you used smelling salts before? Like in the
Yes.
gym, like
I
before
tried it
PR?
once or
If
twice.
you don't know what smelling salts are, essentially most like a lot of athletes and power lifters will use it like right before you go for a PR. Just take a little bit of a whiff of it and then it opens up all of your oxygen so you can get max oxygen capacity. But the NFL bans smelling salts in NFL games, and George Kittle said he almost retired because of that. And then a bunch of
Jesus.
pictures like came out of like him doing smelling salts, but you can't give them anything. Like at least they lax the weed rules a little bit, but smelling salts of all things. I mean, I remember when Derek Wolf was talking about doing a microdose of mushrooms and Adderall during an NFL game, but you can't do smelling salts. It's not even a performance enhancing drug. Honestly, it gives me a headache shortly after I use it each time. I don't know if that's because I'm weak or whatever, but
No, I mean, I don't see any reason why they would ban it. There's no reason to, especially if it's just something that you would use at the gym. It's not like it's going to make you run faster. If anything, it's going to make you wheeze running because it's just going to give you a headwind. So I don't agree with it either, but that could impact George Kittle potentially, a guy who is now in his 30s.
yeah, so we have smelling saltless George Kittle in this one, and they open up week one versus Seattle. I had them winning this game. Any thoughts on that? Do you agree?
I would agree. I think they go out and beat the Seahawks. I agree with you. I think they're going to sweep the Seahawks.
All right. And then they get the joy and the privilege of going to the Big Easy, home and birthplace of Tommy Wiseau.
Yes, Tommy Wiseau might be in attendance in this game. If not, you might at least see Little Wayne if you're lucky. So whether it's Wheezy or the innovator that is Tommy Wiseau, I will take them beating the Saints. If the Saints win any games this year, it will be a miracle.
Yeah, isn't Lil Wayne a Packers fan though?
Yeah, he switched sides, just like they always do. Can't trust them.
and and then the following week they play the Arizona Cardinals.
So I did pick them falling to the Cardinals in this game. So I'll stick with continuity. They fall to the Cardinals. I think they're gonna get some revenge later this year.
All right, and then Rapunzel comes to town.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let dart down thy hair. Doesn't matter. They come with the scissors. They're gonna take down Rapunzel himself and the Jaguars. Duval County. Let's go.
All right, first week of October, Rams 49ers. Looks like this Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football? One of those.
Thursday night football, it looks like.
Okay.
So Thursday night football, I think the Rams and them are usually going to split in this case. It's early in the season. The Rams historically start slower. I'll take them beating the Rams this time around. I think later in the season, the Rams perhaps get vengeance.
All right, so they go to 4-1 to start the season. Probably before the injury bug hits, and then they go to Tampa Bay to take on Bucky Irving, the gas station, and Baker Mayfield.
So they're looking good right now. Things are trending upwards for them. I do think that they're due for a loss, especially we've seen multiple times. You face a division rival, you come off the high of beating Sean McVay. I think they come out flat against the Bucks potentially, and the Bucks take advantage and they beat the 49ers.
All right, so 49ers move to 4-2, and then they host Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football. Now, here's a guy.
Now, here's a guy, Michael Penix, Mr. Irrelevant, the matchup we've all been dying to see this last 6 months of the offseason. A lot of people are very excited for this game, as
Really?
am I. But in this game, I will take the 49ers to beat the Falcons. Kyle Shanahan, former coordinator, he gets his vengeance.
All right. And then the following week, they go to Houston to face the Texans.
And I think the Texans are going to be good this year. Um, I will take them losing to the Texans in this game. I think they're due for a loss as well. I'll take them falling to Houston.
All right. And then they go to New York to face Russell Wilson or Tommy DeVito or Jackson Dart or
Or the stallion that is Jameis Winston. If it's Jameis Winston, I'm nervous. But if it's not Jameis Winston, I think they take care of business in the Big Apple.
All right. So now they are 6-3, keeping it together with duct tape here. And then they have their second matchup with Sean McVay, who is quickly turning the tables on the Kyle Shanahan narrative the past few years.
Yes, and I had them beating the Rams earlier this season. I take the Rams to beat them this time around. I think they will split. Now that the playoffs are starting to come across, I think the Rams get their revenge.
All right. So now they are 6-4. And then the following week, the San Francisco 49ers have a home game in Glendale, Arizona.
Yep, and I picked them to beat the Cardinals in the Cardinals preview. Make sure to check that out. There's going to be about 80% in attendance that are your own kind, so I take them beating the Cardinals.
All right. And then after the Cardinals, they host the Carolina Panthers. Looks like,
Monday Night Football.
yeah.
So Monday Night Football, I think, the next stretch of games are getting easier. I think there's a loss somewhere in here. Monday Night Football, though, coming prepared. 49ers typically deliver on prime time. I will take them to beat the Panthers.
All right. So now the Niners are 8-4, looking good. And this is, if they're healthy. And then the following week, they go to Cleveland at 1 o'clock.
So at this point, we're starting to think about the weather potentially. At the same time, though, we have Shador Sanders, we have Dylan Gabriel, we have Joe Flacco, we have whoever is honestly playing quarterback and can breathe ultimately at quarterback for the Browns. That Browns defense does worry me, though. I think that I smell an upset. I'm going to pick Cleveland to win this game.
All right. You did say there'd be a upset in this stretch of games somewhere. So you have Cleveland with the upset versus the San Francisco 49ers. Niners go to 8-5, and then the next week they host Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans as their schedule continues to get easier at the end of the year.
And whether it's the Browns game or the Titans game that they lose, I think Cam Ward, like you mentioned, can ascend at the end of the season. So maybe this is the game they lose and maybe they beat the Browns. I'll pick them to beat the Tennessee Titans. One of those games is interchangeable. I'll take them beating the Titans.
All right, and then they go to Indianapolis on Monday Night Football. They have back to back Monday Night Footballs where you have the Niners and the Panthers, which I semi get, but after that, why are the Colts and the San Francisco 49ers taking up a primetime spot? Or if Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson versus the 49ers on Monday Night Football, that's what we're doing in
Uh,
December.
They need to flex this game immediately. I understand the games have not been played yet, but this is going to be flexed. I'm going to call it now. If you have a betting app, go out and bet it. This game is absolutely going to be flexed. 49ers win this game. Their schedule has been nothing but cupcakes over the last month at this point. So good for them.
And then continuing that, maybe this isn't a cupcake game, but you have Bears again, another primetime game. So they've been on primetime 3 out of the last 5 games, and this is Sunday Night Football versus Caleb William and the nail polished Bears.
Yes, so the Femboy Bears are coming to town. And at this point in the season, like, you've had your early struggles with the new regime, Ben Johnson. Is he going to be Adam Gase? Is he going to be the next great head coach in the NFL? I'll pick Chicago to beat them because I think, they're due for a loss somewhere. Maybe Chicago gets some magic. Caleb Williams starts to show why he was the first overall pick. I'll take Chicago.
All right, so you take Chicago, and then to finish out the year, they play the Seattle Seahawks.
And you had them sweeping the Seahawks. I will continue with that narrative. So give me the Niners. Ultimately, what's their record? Ultimately, 11-6.
11-6. And honestly, this division has two pretty easy divisions. I mean, you're playing both Souths, it looks like here. So
Yep.
you pretty much have a lot of, I won't want to say easy win because no wins are easy in the NFL, but if you're looking at the AFC South, the Texans should be the only team that challenge you. I feel like the Titans will be a tougher matchup to game plan for than the Jaguars and the Colts will be. Who knows? We're talking about health. Who knows where Jonathan Taylor will be at the end of the season? Michael Pittman also having injury issues. Anthony Richardson plays in the preseason and then he pops a Twinkie or a Pinky.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 11-6 is fair. Maybe they're 10-7. Ultimately, this team, it's not about their roster that worries me. It's how old this roster is and how we already have 13 players who are banged up already. And it's not, we played one preseason game. So my concerns with the Niners is not about their roster. I think if they're healthy, 11-6 is attainable. If they get banged up, maybe we're closer to 9-8, 8-9 sort of record, but they should be vying for the playoffs. They are still some of the tops of the NFC.
All right, so we have the Cardinals at 8-9, the Seattle Seahawks at 5-12, and then if the San Francisco 49ers are healthy, because you never want to predict an injury, we have them at 11-6, because the West has one of the easier schedules in the league, and that leaves us with one team, the Los Angeles Rams. And when you think about the Rams, you have to think about that game that they had versus the Philadelphia Eagles last season, where it felt like if that game wasn't a blizzard, the Rams were going to win that game. The Eagles definitely benefited off of the elements, and they had Saquon Barkley, who's a he's just a better running back for a game like that than Kyron Williams is with how explosive he is. They were able to get enough plays, but the Rams really challenged them. It's a tough coaching matchup. You have two of the better coaches in the league with Nick Sirianni and Sean McVay, and then you replaced Cooper Cup with Devontae Adams this year, and now you're essentially making Puka Nakua the prototype Matthew Stafford receiver, where he's just gonna feed this guy until he can't catch anymore. And then also Matthew Stafford, a little bit of a injury risk heading into the year. Had an aggravated disc in his back, but hopefully he's okay. But my number one concern would just be the health of Matthew Stafford. But maybe we'll get a Stetson Bennett sighting if.
If God loves NFL, and I know it certainly does, I would agree. I think they've hit on a lot of their drafts over the last couple of years. They nailed down Jared Verse last year. And then I do like Kyron Williams a lot. I think the addition of Devontae Adams is a great addition as well. Tyler Higbee, Mr. Consistent tight end. So I would agree their defense looked a lot better last year, even though they lost Aaron Donald. But let's get into it. So before we predict it here, what do you see the Rams at this year?
Yeah, the Rams this year, I think they should be in the playoffs. They should be right up there with the 49ers to win their division. But I would say they'll be in the same range as the Niners, where they're in that 9 to 11 win range, no pun intended. But I can't see them getting over 12 wins.
All right. So they start off their season going and hoisting the Houston Texans.
Hosting the Houston Texans for a Matthew Stafford that has had an aggravated disc in his back, and I know how awful that can be. And I've seen a couple people in the gym deal with disc injuries. That's definitely not something you want to play around with. So I think the Texans defense should be able to take care of business. I will take them to beat the Rams.
All right. And then they go to Tennessee in week 2 to take on Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's where I think they win, get their first win of the year. They go 1-1 versus the Titans.
All right. And then pulling up no stops here, rematch of last year's playoff game. They go to Philly to take on the defending champs.
Yeah, and Philly, they should carry some of that momentum into this season. Give me the Eagles to win that one. Sometimes the Rams you have to be a little bit patient with, and they start out a little bit slow. But that's just the case with a lot of the better coaches in the NFL. If you notice, like some of the Belichick, Sean McVays, they take a little bit of time to get going.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Then ending out September, they hoist Danny Dimes and the Indianapolis Colts.
All right. They get a bye week. That's great. They finish out 2-2, which is just where you want to be if you're Sean McVay.
All right. And then kicking off October with a bang, Thursday night football, Niners, Rams, Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy, cinema.
And I believe you had them splitting in this one.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think you had, looks like you had the 49ers winning this one, so I will take that as well. They dropped to 2-3.
And that doesn't get any easier in week 6 because they're going to Baltimore to take on Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, D Hop, and the Ravens.
Yeah, I think that's another tough matchup, and I think the Rams will struggle earlier in the season. So give me the Ravens to win that game.
All right. And then this next game is international. They are going to Wembley Stadium to take on the London Jaguars because that's what people want to see. 6 a.m. in the morning if you're on the West Coast, 9:30 if you're on the East Coast. Jags, Rams.
Jags Rams, if there's anyone that can break the Jaguars curse, I think it's going to be a combination of Trevor Lawrence being awful and Sean McVay. So give me the Rams to finally break the Jaguars curse this time.
All right. And then week 8, they get some rest after god awful food in London. And then they go and get another bye week when they host the Saints.
All right, so back-to-back bye weeks, and now they are officially 4-4, trying to get above 500.
All right. And then they go to Levi Stadium to take on the Niners.
All right, and then they win this one, starting to take control back of the division here, where the Niners were end up going 6-4. Yeah, so now they are 5-4.
All right. So they're creeping up there. Then they stay in division. They are hoisting the Seahawks.
All right, and then give me the Rams to beat Seattle as well.
All right. And then Sunday night football. This is actually going to be a good Sunday night football game. Rams, Bucks, Sunday night.
Where is it?
This is in SoFi.
It's in SoFi. Give me the Buccaneers in this one. I just have a feeling Baker will rise to the occasion this time. So now they're 6-5. That's okay though.
Revenge game for Baker Mayfield. How dare you let me go? And then they go to Carolina week 13 to take on Bryce Young.
All right, give me the Rams in this one. They just need it.
All right. And then they're going to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. How many Rams fans will be in attendance? We will see.
Yeah, give me the Rams to beat the Cardinals post Call of Duty release.
Yes,
Oh,
Black
they're
Ops
eight and
7,
five.
double XP weekend perhaps. So Kyler Murray will come prepared in the pregame lobbies. And then week 15, they are hoisting Detroit and Jared Goff.
I had them beating the Lions when I did the Lions schedule. I just think when you've played a team so close two times in a row, something has to give. So either the Lions are just going to blow them out in this game, or the Rams are finally going to win. I think the Lions have made their statement versus the Rams, so I think the Rams are going to win this one. It's not going to be as personal for the Lions.
All right. And then Thursday night football, this game should be flexed. Rams going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks
It's
Thursday
in
night.
division though. How could you say it should be flex? But give me the Rams, obviously.
And then they go back to back primetime games. Monday Night Football, the 29th of December, they go to Penix Stadium to take on the Falcons.
Is that what they're calling it now? Penix Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
All right. But give me the Rams in this one. We're a
Even the
serious
great,
team.
even the great Kyle Pitts cannot be stopped. All right. And then final game of the season, flex game. They are hoisting the Cardinals.
They're hosting the Cardinals, and then give me the Rams to beat the Cardinals. And they go 12-5 and win the
I think that's
division.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it all depends. This is all assuming Matthew Stafford is going to be healthy. It does concern me. I think they can be in that 10-7 range. There's some of these games that they might lose, like the Falcons game you could point out there, but this should definitely be a 10-12 win team here.
Yeah, I think they're the best team in this division. So I agree with our rankings pretty much down to a T. This is probably what I would have predicted otherwise. So maybe the
Yes.
49ers are 10-7, but yeah.
And then this is going to be a division though that is solely based on health here, because especially with Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford, Christian McCaffrey, George, I mean, anyone outside of Brock Purdy on the 49ers, I'm legitimately concerned for their health. Seattle, I'm just concerned about their quarterback situation and their head coach. But we had the Seattle Seahawks at 5-12. Arizona Cardinals at 8-9, the San Francisco 49ers at 11-6, and then the LA Rams rounding it out on top at 12-5. Let us know what you think of that prediction. Is there anything you would change? Go back through our videos. Let us know what games you disagree with here. But again, this is all assuming that all these teams are going to be healthy here. And, you know, you can be critical of it if you want to. Some people are like, oh, this just proves you've never watched football, especially with your Mike Tomlin take. A lot of people are like, yeah, tell me you haven't watched football without having watched football, which I just think is the dumbest argument. Like, I have watched every single Steelers game since I was 10 at this point. So I've seen Mike Tomlin, and at some point, like, enough is enough. Sometimes we just have to move on. Sometimes we just need a new vision where Mike Tomlin just seems comfortable with losing in the playoffs.
Yeah, he hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. So I think that's fair. But that is our NFC West rankings. Let us know who you think will come out on top in the NFC West.
But we had that there, and then shifting into more of our pop culture segment of the show, we have some lists last week that we did. We did the worst, most boring states, some controversial ones like Phoenix being on there. So I thought it would be only, I mean, follow it up with the worst, most boring states with the states with the worst driving here and the worst states to drive in. So we're going to go over the 10 worst states in the United States to drive in. So if you're checking in from Europe or overseas, maybe you're in Asia or South America, we appreciate you tuning in. Let's go over the 10 worst states to drive in, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, rounding out the top of the list as it loads here, what would you expect? like the top three most dangerous states to drive in to be?
So I'm expecting to see California because there's fucking 13 lane highways, and California drivers, at least in Arizona, are psychotic. Don't care about the rules of the road. So I see them there. I think we're going to probably see a couple of East Coast states like New York and Massachusetts, as they are notorious for asshole drivers. And if we don't see Arkansas on this list, I will know that these people have never been to Arkansas because maybe it's not the drivers that suck, but the roads certainly do. And there's just nothing but crawfish commercials and bumps in the highway. So if I don't see those three states that I mentioned, I will be upset.
Yeah, like Arkansas driving down from like the top of the East Coast to Texas was probably the worst state to drive in. I don't understand. So if you're going to make your speed limit 75 miles per hour, why are there speed bumps on the highway? And then also when you go through Little Rock, it goes from 90 miles per hour bumper to bumper to a full speed stop. And we kind of hit it through rush hour. Not only that, it's the only thing to do in Little Rock. We were looking at Little Rock as a possible place to stay. I was like, what is there to do in Little Rock? They're like the Bill Clinton Library. I'm like, cool. There's going to be a bunch of books about lizards there. I can't wait.
Yeah, Arkansas, of all my drives that I had to go through, it was a 4 hour drive from Memphis to entering Texas. And that was the most excruciating drive of my entire 43-hour drive to Arizona. It was the worst. Would not recommend. Boring as hell. And I felt a breath of relief once when I entered Texas. There was just something that changed in the air.
Yeah, which is saying something. It might just be because you're in Texas, so you're like, at least I'm not in Arkansas of all places. But at number 10 on this list is Colorado. And Colorado, it states that there is heavy congestion, winter hazards, and rising crash rates. Does this have anything to do with them making marijuana legal, or do you think it's just a bunch of California people that moved to Colorado?
I think it's a mix of both. We have the stoners, we have the brewery aficionados there as well. You also have psychedelic mushrooms that are legal there as well. So they might be just seeing a whole bunch of shit that you wouldn't even get. So I'm not surprised by Colorado on this list. I haven't driven in Colorado personally, but I'm okay with this. No complaints so far.
Yeah, honestly, like too, something I've noticed with weed is I feel like I don't know if you've noticed this, sometimes it makes people fake mellow where sometimes a stoner like will come across as really nice, but then suddenly they snap really quickly. Or I've noticed some people who smoke a lot of weed will just randomly have these psychotic breaks where when they're high, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm nice, everything's crazy," and then they just snap randomly.
Yes. If you're a perpetual weed smoker, I feel like, especially if you're smoking weed to not be anxious, and then you just smoke all the time, you end up just being high and anxious at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, that's like one of the drawbacks with weed. I feel like it's just if you've been smoking it for a while, you can get psychotic breaks every once in a while.
100%, especially if you do too much.
And then at number 9 we have Hawaii for extreme cost of car ownership, congestion, and a limited road network. If I lived in Hawaii, I would be getting around by hang glider. I don't know about you.
I've been getting by through fucking surfboards. Who the fuck, like, that's not, that state doesn't even count. It's literally an island. We only have them for fucking pineapple imports. Like, that's literally it. This state should not be included on any list that is America because Hawaii is not a US state as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's only a state because the government says so. It's not connecting. No, I disagree.
Yeah, how is Hawaii on here but Alaska isn't?
Yeah, at least Alaska's like kind of connected. I think you can get to Alaska somehow. I don't know.
No.
But Hawaii, like Hawaii of all places, that's a fucking island. Get by fucking, I don't know, dinosaurs or whatever the fuck's there. Get
Yeah.
by on fucking
Yeah.
alligators. I don't care.
I would have a horse or a hang glider there, but that's just me. Um, number 8, we have Wyoming. Wyoming is here for dangerous rural highways, weather hazards, that makes sense, and then a high per capita crash rate. probably what happens in Wyoming is I didn't expect there to be a car there.
Yeah, and what are they running into fucking buffalo there? Are they just not expecting to see a fucking buffalo crossing the street? Like that's the only thing. Like where how is there a high crash rate if nobody's there? What exactly are they talking about here?
Yeah, I feel like you just don't really have to pay attention. It's dangerous rural highways, and like probably the danger there is the elk and the buffalo or a bear could be on the highway, especially if you're in like the Yellowstone area. There's probably a lot of people who visit Yellowstone who just aren't aware that there could be a massive grizzly bear or buffalo on the highway.
Yeah, and I feel like you're also like because there's nothing there, you're going much faster than the speed limit. So you see an elk run through, you're like, oh fuck, I just hit an elk because I'm going fucking 100 miles an hour.
And then at number 7, we have Mississippi for unsafe roads, which doesn't surprise me. Uh, Poor infrastructure and a high fatality rate.
Yeah, it's one of the dumbest states in America. Education is not the specialty there. Butter certainly is, though. So, not surprised by Mississippi on this list. I haven't personally driven through Mississippi, but everything that's mentioned on this list so far, I cannot disagree because I'm not surprised by anything that they're saying.
And then at number 6, we have Louisiana, poor road quality, high accident rates, and then expensive insurance. We have both been in call centers. We won't say where, but I've talked to someone from Louisiana. And the bit that Tom Segura did about the Cajun people is very real. I've had someone call into me and be like,
Yeah, you know Xavier Leggett, he's from Louisiana. Like they just talk differently out there. Like we're basically talking about Mississippi the sequel over here. So all the things that we were complaining about with Mississippi on this last one, this one's here. I'm not surprised whatsoever. Also another state that does not have the highest IQ in America.
It's just funny that they put expensive insurance on this too.
Yeah, it's like okay, I guess, whatever. Fucking
And
gross.
then another weed state making the top 10 here. Number 5, Oregon. Bad driving habits, red light run. bad, bad driving habits, parentheses, red light running, speeding in school zones.
Yeah, I mean, like the problem is like when they're going to turn their wheels, they get stuck in their gauges and they can't unlock from that. So maybe that's what causes it. Another state that is perpetually high as well. So they're like, "Oh fuck, man, I just passed all my red lights," and that's why they're dangerous ultimately.
Did you know you're speeding in a school zone? School?
Mm.
I don't need to go to school. I'm an adult.
What seems to be the problem, Ossifer?
No, officer, it's hi, how are you? And then this one's kind of surprising. At number 4, we have South Carolina, one of the highest traffic death rates in the country.
Oh, I'm kind of surprised with them on this list so far. So far, a lot of southern states that are dangerous to
Huh.
drive in.
It must be the sun, to be honest. You get that sun glare. There are some points like driving in Texas where I couldn't see anything just because the sun was so bright and in my eyes. But I don't know. South Carolina, is that just like a too many watermelon warriors there?
Maybe it's very possible.
But at number 3, we do have the great state of Texas with a high number of fatal crashes, aggressive driving, and bad urban congestion. So this is kind of like considering the quality of driving where Dallas and Houston and Austin at some points have some ridiculous traffic, and I think there's like a accident like every 60 seconds in Texas too,
Oh
something
god.
crazy like that.
Yeah, I didn't love driving from Dallas to Austin on my road trip. It was very congested. Took me like 3 hours. I was late for Monday Night Football, so I mean, when we drove around when we visited Dallas, it wasn't too bad, but I'm not it is very congested, especially during rush hour, and there are some parts of it that are not fun to drive through.
Yeah, and people on in Texas who drive are just straight up on their phone too. You just look over in their car and you just see this. Ah, just looking on TikTok. I'm like, why is everyone in Texas watching a movie on their phone?
They got hey, they're connected, man.
And then at number two, we have Montana for deadly crash rates, speeding, in low enforcement zones.
So what I'm hearing so far from this list is don't drive in the Midwest and don't drive in the South. That's basically what they're telling us.
Yeah, because we have like Oregon and Montana and Wyoming, which are all the Pacific Northwest. And then we have like a lot of southern states like Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and then Texas, and then Pacific Northwest. We have Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana with a lot of fatalities.
Yeah, so don't drive in those parts of the country, I suppose. I'm surprised we haven't seen any East Coast yet. Like no New York and no Massachusetts, even though those guys I feel like are pretty bad drivers.
The thing I will say about those states is after like driving like in some different states across the country, they drive bad and aggressive, but it's with a purpose, and they're actually some of the safer drivers. Like anytime like they have aggressive driving, it's like aggressive driving with a purpose. Where people in like Texas, in South Carolina, and Louisiana, and Mississippi are just dumb.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And then at number one, a state that you drove through right next to Arizona, a state that has a lot to do, not New Mexico. High fatal crash rate, lots of high fatal crash rate, lots of impaired driving, poor infrastructure in rural areas. This is the only one that has had lots of impaired driving on the list.
Well, that's because there's fucking nothing in New Mexico. You want to talk about, we made fun of Arkansas earlier, and I think New Mexico deserves to be on this list as well because New Mexico is by far the most mind numbingly boring state to drive through. I honestly thought about buying a six pack and just driving and slamming a few beers while I was driving because there's literally, it's not like when you're driving, like at least in Arkansas, you might see some mountains, you might see some cornfields. You see, it's literally like as if you're playing Minecraft and you just did absolutely nothing and you just started off with a blank template. That is essentially New Mexico. All you're going to see is a couple of shrubs that go by every once in a while. You don't have any mountains. Everything is very flat. It's all cactus and kind of ugly architecture as well. And again, like outside of like Roswell and Albuquerque and Santa Fe, there's nothing there. Like literally, New Mexico is practically a desert, and it literally is a desert wasteland. It is that that and Arkansas were the worst states to drive through when I went through.
Yeah, I've heard good things about northern New Mexico because they have a little bit more forest there. I talked to someone after a concert who was in one of the bands, and he was from New Mexico, and he said they had some of the better skiing that he's done before. So maybe
Hmm.
that is true. But I feel like just the southern half of New Mexico, you could definitely pass on. That's like the part I'm dreading is just leaving Phoenix and driving back to Austin when I go on my road trip in the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, I can tell you once when you get past Mesa, you're gonna see nothing for like hours. It's gonna be like
We
6 hours of just nothing, and then you get to Roswell, which is cute for like 10 minutes. You stop in there, get a coffee, and then you leave again, and it's another 6 hours, and then you're in Texas, and then you're in rural part of Texas, which I think is a lot more pretty than that of New Mexico. But you're gonna the New Mexico part's the worst part, especially because you already would have stopped in Phoenix, and you've already it's kind of like your that last destination technically.
Yeah, yeah. And then we are also like when we're going to be in New Mexico is the same weekend as an air show going on, so pretty much every hotel was booked up. I had to like
Oh,
book the Roswell Inn, which looked pretty cool. It's like alieny. It's like an inn. So whatever, but it was like $150 for one night in Roswell, and there are only 3 rooms left, and every other hotel was booked
so
because
you're
they're
not gonna
having.
see it.
So it's gonna be popping though. We're gonna see Roswell at its peak, but it's gonna be a military air show going on there but we're gonna be a 4-minute walk from the UFO museum. So yay,
I went there. It's
exciting.
cool. New
Is it
Mexico, I
cool?
mean, Roswell's like a cute town. It's just like a random desert town in a state that has literally nothing else. And so I feel like you guys will have fun just like seeing like the alien parts. It's a cool little, it's a cute little town. And it's one that you're only going to see on a road trip. If you're not on a road trip, you're not going to just go to Roswell.
Yeah, and hopefully the Dunkin' Donuts there has pumpkin. That's really what I'm hoping for at that point, because the white, the white in me is, I think pumpkin is gonna be here pretty soon. But you said
Yeah.
you're in Arizona now. You said pumpkin, like, does it hit the same for you when you're not like in the fall?
No, no, it does not. It's like, well, you got to think like you're drink. Do you like drinking warm coffee when it's hot? Like, are you drinking warm coffee right now in Texas?
Yeah, I pretty much only have hot coffee. Unless if I go out, I'll get iced coffee, but I make like Nespresso at home, and then at work I make hot coffee. So
So I think like the thing is like with like pumpkin flavor and like apple crisp flavored coffee, there's something about it like being slightly chillier. Like I might enjoy it more if I went up north in Arizona where it's like much cooler. But like when you're sipping coffee that's warm and you have like that fall season flavor and it's 110, it just doesn't hit the same. Where like if you're back home in New England and it's fucking 40, you're like, oh, this feels great. This is warming me up and it's delicious at the same time. It's not quite the same.
yeah, but that is the top 10 worst states overall to drive in, factoring in a couple different things. Do you agree with that list? And then any other ones you'd think off the top of your head, or do you think that's pretty fair?
I think that we missed California, we missed Massachusetts, we missed New York, and other than that, like Virginia wasn't that bad. Pennsylvania is a very boring drive. I didn't love going through Pennsylvania; just felt the longest. That's the only other state that I would shout out. I wouldn't say it's a bad state to drive through. It's just it's just very plain for like hours and hours and hours.
Yeah. But that was our 10 worst states to drive in. What did you think about the list that we reacted to? What are some of the states you think are terrible to drive in as well? Definitely let us know in the comments down below. Interested to see what you all have to say. But um, I was excited because a couple weeks ago, Anthony Fantano had a soft cancellation here, and he is one of the probably most annoying music critics because you can tell he's just trolling on purpose sometimes. But you had kind of mentioned that kind of just have a problem with overall like some of the style that people have when they're criticizing music, where I feel like a lot of people more gravitate towards reaction content because it's generally more positive and people can find something of value in it instead of just tearing it apart for no reason.
Yeah, Anthony Fantano. I think he's somebody that I'm going to criticize, and I feel like his medium is I think it's important to have. Like you got to have critics in any sort of artistic art like space. But the problem with someone like him and some other guys I would shout out is like back in the day, Roger Ebert with film, and then another guy, Will Speaks, is kind of in the similar breath. The problem is that they're overly critical, and I feel like a lot of the time there's a vendetta against that artist, or they favor that artist more because maybe they're buddies. With Anthony Fantano, he's overly critical historically with like Machine Gun Kelly. He's historically critical of like Miley Cyrus and Kanye and people who maybe, for one reason or another are controversial. But then in the other breath, he's going to go and give a band like Daughters and Swans and bands that like people don't
Charlie
listen to.
XCX.
Charlie XCX, another
He did a
prime
stream.
example.
He did a stream with Logic, and then suddenly, oh, I liked his new album actually.
Yeah, he was tearing apart Logic for like a decade longer. And then he has him on, he makes him laugh a few times. And then the very next album, he gives like an 8, which for him is like amazing. But you're talking about a guy who has, whether it's The Weekend, where he gave House of Balloons, which is like a very historic weekend album, a 4. He gave he gave Kanye's, I mean, the infamous one is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, a 6, even though it is considered one of the best hip hop records of all time. He reviews it again a decade later after it's kind of what made him famous, and he gives it a 6 again. even though it's some of his best work of all time. And then he also gave, I believe he gave
Would you
Ticket
say
to
it's
My
better than
Downfall.
Damn?
I would say it's better than Damn, honestly.
Yeah,
You got
and he
Power
gave
on there,
Damn
you
a
have
7.
Runaway.
Yeah,
Yeah, which I think that's fair for Damn. But and then he gave, I think, Tickets to My Downfall. Some of the albums he just gives a not good either.
yeah.
I think he gave that to Tickets to My Downfall, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
So it's just like the problem is like I'm okay with you critiquing something completely. Like if it's a bad album, like all right, you got to do what you got to do. But the problem is like I don't like hater content when it comes to music. So I feel like that's why I prefer people like the NFR team where they're live reacting and they're positive historically. And they're not trying to like completely belittle these musical artists. But with Anthony Fantano, it feels like that's exactly what he's trying to do.
Yeah, especially for someone who like was a band nerd, and especially like when he talks about hip hop, like he got canceled for reading super chats that had the N word in it, where he was actually saying the nerd alert. But he gets soft canceled for that, and then his hip hop takes are just kind of weird generally. Another artist he generally doesn't give positive reviews to, or like I feel like he misses the mark sometimes on some of his reviews is J. Cole, where he's just like overly analytical, where a lot of people will put him like top, but then he has some artists where it's just overrating them. And it seems like they're because they're a specific like identity or orientation. And then he just will have a vendetta against some artists. So like, actually, I just don't like this. Like certain artists like NF, where it's like you have to understand who the music is made for. And it's like, well, if you're a fan of this artist, if this is the kind of music that you like, this is what I would give it. Because if you're a critic, it's not about your personal preference. It's like, do you think it's good or not? Or do you think the fans will actually like it? But for something like a music, I feel like it's so subjective, and I feel like it's one of the most subjective things where it's hard to be original. I feel like in modern day music, and I feel like it's hard to make something fresh. Where if you can give something a new spin on it and it's catchy, I feel like that's passable. Like to be honest,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like I feel like it's something also that it's so hard to put an album together and get the mixing and mastering and just sing like on an instrumental done where it's like if you can even get that done and it sounds good, like that should be applauded on its own. So I feel like that's not something where it should necessarily be an industry where you're tearing someone a new asshole over it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's not like the industry that we're in, like talking about sports, like we have numbers that can back it up as well. Like, are you not going to tell me that Anthony Richardson is better than Patrick Mahomes? Because statistically, it's obvious. And you have the eyes to see it as well. In the eyes of like music people, like for me, I feel like I like older music more than newer music, or at least like I grew up listening to that. So like I'm more likely to listen to like a Linkin Park or a Pink Floyd or Black Sabbath compared to like some of the artists of today, at least like rock wise. And then like rap wise, I have my people that I grew up listening to, like the Kanyes of the world, like the Kendricks and, Tyler the Creators, Drake's, whoever. So like everyone has their preferences with it, but that doesn't mean that like these other great artists or these other artists that maybe don't fit into that bubble are worthy of being completely eviscerated ultimately. Another criticism I have of Fantano as well is like my thing that made me lose all respect for him, which was when Vultures came out, and Kanye had said a lot of insane things, and so it's kind of hard not to include that in there. But the fact that he refused to review it at all, there's plenty of problems with that album, and it definitely wasn't. It probably I don't think it was that good of an album, anyways. But the fact that you refuse to review it because he's such a piece of shit, but at the same time you're reviewing XXX Tentacion's album and giving it like a 5 or 6, even though he beat a pregnant woman, like there's other things that he's reviewed a lot of artists that are not good people, um, pretty well as well. Like Kanye, like yes, Kanye has said some very heinous things, and he's by no means a role model. But I feel like completely refusing to review somebody's music, especially someone of that high of level, is really just lame. Like that was when I lost all respect for Fantano.
Yeah, is that worse than someone who's actually like assaulted someone?
Or murdered people too.
Yeah, Lil
Like
Durk. Did he
Lil Durk.
review Lil Durk's album after he went to prison?
Did he review DaBaby after committing murder? Yes. Like there's plenty of other people who have done more heinous things than saying
Hey, that was
highly offensive
self-defense.
things. Yeah, that's what Chappelle said at least.
You gotta
But
protect yourself in Walmart. But then after that, the craziest part was the baby drops the song "Lonely" with Lil Wayne. He's like, "I could use the murder for therapy. I could make the news with it." He's
yeah,
like bragging about it after the fact. Like, all right.
yeah, I just felt like that was when I was like, okay, this guy is a joke. And then yeah, he gave Brat a 10, and like it's not my music necessarily, mostly because I'm not gay. I hate to say it, it's kind of true, but like, it's just not for me. I don't know. I'm not, Brat Summer guy. Maybe that's wrong with me. I don't know, but he gave it a 10, and I feel like girl. I mean, if the girls want to love Brat Summer, that's totally fine, and it's a type of music. Girls love it. That's great. But Anthony Fantano giving it a 10, I'm like, really, dude? What are we doing? Giving Brat was a good album for what it is, but did not deserve a 10.
Yeah, his like defense too was so disingenuous because it's funny that all the people who actively try and cancel people at the end of the day get canceled by the same people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's interesting to see. I don't know. I know that there has to be a space for criticism. Like in the past, like movie reviewers, like Roger Ebert was a guy who was infamous for criticizing great movies. Like he gave like Toy Story like I think a 1.5 stars or something like that
What?
when it first came out. Something like that. It's a really low review for a movie that is timeless at this point. So like he was kind of like the Fantano before, but it was with film. And then like Roger, they have like Rolling Stone historically has had some pretty big misses with album reviews as well, but I still feel like it's essential to have these kind of people in their spaces. It's just you got to criticize it for the actual music itself, and not just like I don't like this person because they're in Kanye's case you know supporting the wrong saying some bad stuff.
Yeah, saying some bad stuff, especially with Kanye. We all know what he's done. But speaking of criticism, speaking of critics, we did have probably the most one of the most modern day polarizing artists drop a album this week. You had a chance to listen to Lost Americana. Did you listen to it front to back all the way through in one sitting?
I did, yeah. It's really fun. I thought it was. I don't know where I would rank it as far as like his overall music, but I think that it's probably the easiest listen for somebody who just like throws it on. Has some really good tracks in there. Like I really liked Miss Sunshine. I liked Don't Wait, Run Fast, Outlaw, Overturn, Sweet Caroline. It's a fun album. It's classic alternative, and yeah, I feel like it's just a good summer album. Kind of wish it came out like a month earlier, honestly.
Yeah, his like whole goal with the album was to just make a road trip album, and then he wanted to make something really nostalgic. When he was going to create this album, he wanted to make a rap album, and then I guess it just wasn't coming out how he liked it. He had recorded a couple songs with Pharrell, and then
Hmm.
he ended up deleting like 100 songs, and then he essentially went to rehab in December to January. So he was in rehab during Christmas. And then when he came out, did a 4-day water fast. And then him and his friends were essentially debating what they wanted to do with the album. He's like, I know my fans want a rap album. I want to rap again, but I want to also explore a little bit more because I've done rap since I was a teenager, and that's what I've been doing. And then I did the pop punk albums. I just want to have an album that's more of like a pop album and exploratory. And then one of his friends goes, "Hey, Bob Dylan just posted you on his Instagram story." And Bob Dylan doesn't post anyone really. Bob Dylan didn't promote his own movie. And it was a video I'd seen of him rapping in a Park Ave record store. He was like, "This is me." It's probably on like page 22 like of my YouTube page. Just me when I'm like 25, high on cocaine at 9 in the morning in a record store, just rapping for 13 minutes a cappella. It was like kind
Hmm.
of a acoustic set too. So it's kind of Bob Dylan just reposting him that really reinforced the direction that he wants to go. The album where when you listen to it, he doesn't really pick a genre in it. And then at one point, it was number one on the iTunes chart in hip hop and pretty much every genre here. You have Outlaw Overture, which is on all of his albums. He tries to do like a really bombastic opening track, like Born with Horns, um, title track on Tickets to My Downfall, The Gunner on Bloom, El Diablo on Hotel Diablo. So kind of does that, and then he wanted to go for like a little bit of like the Daft Punk sound, and then Cliche. I'm kind of glad the whole album didn't sound like that overall.
Yeah, that album. I feel like that song was definitely, um, and that was an intentional release when he released that. Like, definitely more tongue in cheek, kind of little corny pop music, alternative sort of style. But yeah, I just really think like this album front to back is just it's a fun listen. I can see how this is kind of like a road trip kind of song album because I just feel like you can just kind of listen to it front to back and just kind of have some fun, nod your head a little bit, and just enjoy like some good alternative music.
Yeah. Did you like kind of like the switch up where he's like tell me what's up is kind of like the transition into like the last half of the album. 'Cause I think my favorite song off the album is probably Indigo because like I feel like my favorite music from him is definitely as a rapper. Like my favorite album from him is still General Admission or Hotel Diablo, but I feel like Indigo and Tell Me What's Up are probably my two favorite songs off this one. And then the last three songs are definitely more emotional, but the first one, Can't Stay Here, is more of just kind of a song you sing with your buddies at the end of the night in a bar, which kind of seemed like a lighter song was what he was going for.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. I've listened to it now I think two times, and I've enjoyed it. I like the earlier half just because it's kind of like more some like kind of summery vibes. I feel like it's an album that you can re-explore the second half of it more when we enter the fall and summer and winter seasons. But um, yeah, it's a nice listen. I like Sweet Coraline. I like Miss Sunshine. I do like the Tell Me What's Up. I Can't Stay Here as well. But yeah, overall, I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I think it's probably the easiest listen for someone who's not a fan of him. And then I definitely notice an improvement as far as his singing on this album. Like throughout his career, I went back and listened to um, Lace Up and General Admission, and he doesn't even really do any hooks until Hotel Diablo on his own albums. And then he obviously is like singing on Tickets to My Downfall and mainstream sellout, but I feel like just the jump in his vocals on this one, even just like the switch at the end of Outlaw Overture, where it kind of has the beat switch on it, I feel like you can definitely hear a difference um, from his previous two albums.
Yeah, I just appreciate seeing his evolution, because I started listening to him during the Lace Up era, and he was definitely more like he's always had like that punk element to his music, but that one was much more like rap oriented. But now he's evolved. He's tried different sounds. He's done rock. He's done alternative. Hasn't quite done like screamo, but he's done like that kind of like pop punk kind of sound. And now I feel like he's going kind of more into pop. And then now he's going to probably go back into rap. So just seeing his evolution as a rapper, like going from Wild Boy to now he's doing Cliche, like other songs like that, like just going more into the pop realm. I've embraced it. I like it.
Yeah, it's nice to see an artist too who I feel like he really paved the way for a lot of artists to actually go and be more exploratory. Like we got sometimes why from Yellow Wolf, like Kanye is always like exploring with different genres, but just not letting himself like be put in a box, even if he knows he may catch some criticism for it. But anytime he does anything, he's gonna catch some criticism for it.
Yeah, 100%. He's just one of those guys. He's controversial, um, and he knows how to rub people the wrong way. I feel like I can respect somebody who does that. I feel like if you're causing controversy historically, it's because you're doing something that is going against the norm historically. So I respect him for that.
Yeah, he said too. He's like, well, if people like are talking about it, like that's a form of art. Like even if someone's like hating on something or people are like vibing with it, if people aren't talking about it, that's when you should be concerned. But as long as people are talking about it, that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I know JID dropped an album this week as well, going alongside it, and he came out with the Forever Story. If I remember correctly, this was nominated for a couple of Grammys back in the day. This has gone down as like a lot of people are putting this in like top rap albums of the decade. The Forever Story is. So this is his follow up to it. He releases God Does Not Like Ugly. I've only really gotten a chance to listen through it entirely once, but early thoughts of it. This is a guy with JID. He's one of those interesting artists where I feel like a lot of like the hip hop community really embraces him, but I feel like mainstream wise, he is still somebody that is often overlooked. And I look at his catalog now, like the Never Story, DiCaprio 2, Forever Story, God Does Not Like Ugly. Like he's now like, especially with this carrying on with what the Forever Story was, he's just continuing his catalog running. So I feel like he hasn't really made a bad album yet. And I feel like it's just now that he's starting to get like large recognition and the appreciation that he deserves. But I liked this album so far. I gotta definitely go back and re-listen to it, but definitely some great songs here.
Yeah, I know. I've listened to the song he had with Eminem. That song was pretty controversial. Kind of everyone the stands and JID fans arguing who won that verse. Essentially, like for me, like that song was cool, but like as someone who grew up listening to Tech Nine, it's like just another day in the park for me.
Yeah, but then he's got I liked his song with Clips. He had a song with Vince Staples that I appreciated. Don Tolliver song. He had a lot of features on the song, which if I remember correctly, the Forever Story he didn't really have any features. He had a handful, like he had like an Ari Lennox feature, which makes sense because she's on his label.
The
You saw
biggest
like a
one was
21
like
Savage.
21 Savage. I think that was like the most popular song.
Surround
Was
Sound,
him and
yeah. Surround
21.
Sound was pretty big. Um, but this album, it feels like the entire album has a feature on it, which I'm okay with. Ultimately for him, now that he's starting to kind of ascend, I respect it. But just, I feel like it's doubling down on him as a rapper. Where was he ranking as far as just in the rap genre itself? I feel like with this entry in his catalog, you can continue to build him as a case of, being at the top of his game in the rap game.
Yeah. Would you put him? I would. He's like one of those artists. I feel like he's more mainstream than underground, but his like beats sound like mainstream hip hop. But like I feel like stylistically he sounds underground, where he may sound more like someone like a Token, Joyner Lucas, or Denzel Curry, who are also kind of on that cusp of mainstream, but not really. Where Joyner and Token are both independent, and then I think is Denzel on a record label. I think him and JID are both on a record label, but
I think they are now, but I think like when they ascended because Denzel Curry has a little bit like he started a little bit earlier than JID. It's his first album came out in I think 2011 when he released like Lord Vader Kush and some of the other EPs that he's dropped. So he kind of had a an earlier run, but I feel like they're the same kind of guy. I think they're both at the kind of same kind of popularity where now like Denzel Curry has been on like the Spider-Man soundtrack, so I don't think he's necessarily unknown. He had the Ultimate song that was massive in 2016. Um, and JID is kind of in that same boat. He's collabed with Eminem. He's had a couple of really big hits as well. So he's not necessarily underground, but I feel like he's still like maybe underappreciated in the hip hop game. Like maybe he could be in that conversation. I don't think he's running hip hop, but I think he's definitely um he's released two great albums in a row now. So I think, that's gotta cause some attention.
yeah, and I think DiCaprio too was good. Like they had 151 on there, which was good.
Yeah. But I think the Denzel Curry comp is definitely. I think that definitely fits. I was surprised though because it charted at number 10, but um, I think maybe that'll gain some more traction as it goes on, especially if it's getting any award buzz from it as well.
Yeah, I think for him though, like one thing like about JID that rubbed me the wrong way was I saw him in an interview saying I don't like the style of music I do, which is kind of like why you're doing it. for me because if you're
Mm,
saying I don't like rapidy rap, why are you doing it? Because I feel
mm.
like if you want to get more fans, why would you even say that? Because if you want to pull from like Joyner, Tech Nine, some of these underground people who like that style of music, why would you come out and say I don't like that style of music?
Did he say that after the Forever story or before?
Yeah, he said it when he was promoting that album.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I know his earlier work's a little bit more, you have to be in a certain taste for it, but I'm surprised he said that, to be honest, just because I haven't really seen a lot of his interviews, but I'm surprised that he had said that just about the music he makes. So yeah, surprised by that.
And I get like people think like fast rap can be a crutch sometimes. So like I understand it, but I still think sometimes if you're in that lane, sometimes it's better not to say anything.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, two album drops. Make sure to check out God Does Like the Ugly and MGK's new album Lost Americana. But as far as what we've been playing, what we've been watching, both of us have purchased some new video games this past week. You got Far Cry 5 and I got the new Madden, but how are we liking the new game?
Yeah, Far Cry 5's been fun. I'm about 10 hours into it, and so far like the Far Cry games and I feel like Ubisoft in general is just really good for normies because I generally don't have a lot of time like with all of my hobbies to play video games. So when I am able to, typically like once or twice a year to just sit down and binge a video game, it's usually something fun. And this one, you're just in the middle of Montana fighting this pretty much like it's like a Christian. They try and make it out to be like a Christian alt right kind of cult that you're fighting. And this game, like the gunplay, is definitely really fun. You essentially get missions by rescuing people that have been abducted or prisoners of the cult. So they'll give you missions, and like 2 hours into the game, you have someone walk up to you and they're like, "This guy, they've been experimenting on a moose and he's drugged up. You need to go kill him." So you're
Hmm,
like fighting moose on drugs. They have a really cool companion system where when you go to raid forts, if you've ever played Far Cry, that's a big part of the game is just messing people up in forts. You can hire people to fight with you. So you'll have someone with like a bow and arrow. There's one lady who has like a flaming bow and arrow, so she'll shoot someone and set them on fire. You have people with like rocket launchers, machine guns, but you can also have a dog. And I just got a bear named Cheeseburger, where the bear will run into the fort and then start rampaging on people. So overall, it's just a really fun guilty pleasure game. And I played Far Cry 3 all the way through, and that was definitely a really good game. But I like the setting of Montana a lot. And the last thing I'll say is this game has a lot of planes, which I did not expect, but they have those planes, that can land on the water.
hmm.
They're everywhere in this game, and you can call cars in this one. You'll do missions and people will randomly be like, "Yeah, I have my car." So the people that will be with you will either drive the car for you or they'll hop up on top, and they'll do the machine gun for you. So you can have either a car with like a machine gun, or you can also buy helicopters that you can spawn at any moment too.
That's fun. Yeah, that's nice. I play a little bit of Far Cry 5. I really liked it. I like the fact that there's like just Buffalo just chilling with you and then the companion system of it. I didn't play a lot of it, but I did appreciate. I feel like Far Cry is one of those series that usually delivers when they release a game. Like I know Far Cry 6 has Gus Fring as the villain in it, and then Far Cry 3 is like legendary, like one of the greatest games of all time. At least of the 2010s. And then this one was good as well when I played it. But I got the new Madden. I got the deluxe edition. I was gonna wait until this week to get it, but I didn't have any plans last week. So I'm like, you know what? Let me get Madden. I'll pay the extra $30. I already pre-ordered it a couple months ago for the standard edition. So I got it, and honestly, I was excited entering it because they made a lot of revamps to franchise mode. Seems like they're kind of like leaning into like the AI parts of video games, which I feel like in Madden of all places is the perfect place to have They have like AI coaching strategies, adapting the coaches like adapting to their play calls based on what you're calling in the game. Trade logic makes way more sense in the game. Um, so franchise mode has had a nice little facelift. It's a lot more fun to scout in the game and develop talent. So I appreciate that there. Superstar mode, they've updated, but I still feel like it's very much half baked in the sense that like nothing in the game, like you're pretty much just doing training drills, playing your game, and there's not like that more like interpersonal level games that we had in previous my careers back like 15 years ago, where you're doing interviews and you're doing like endorsement deals. It's not at all even close to the level that 2K's had over the last 10 years. So my only complaint that I'll say with this Madden so far is that I think that it's a little overhyped. Like the gameplay is great. Naturally, I feel like their gameplay has actually been pretty good over the last few years, but everyone's calling it like the best Madden game of all time. It's the best Madden game since like probably Madden 25, but that's just how Madden's just been really just not trying over the last 15 years. So I don't think that's saying much. And what also makes me mad is the fact that they're trying right when their licensing deal is up. So I know exactly why they're trying this game. It's because they want to keep their exclusive rights so that they can continue to dial it in for the next decade. So Madden, I think it's fun. I think you should get it when it's $30, but I think it's still the same. It hasn't changed that much. It's still Madden.
Yeah, and my biggest problem with sports games like Madden or 2K is their idea of making it harder is just glitches and then cartoonish, ridiculous stuff happens that wouldn't happen in NFL games. Like if you want to make it more realistic, sure, make it more realistic. But if you're telling me someone's gonna drop a pass or you're gonna have this freakish fumble anytime you run with a quarterback, you essentially fumble the ball, like it's like, all right. But like for me, I'm more of just a casual video game player where I don't really ever grind my career. I'll do like a franchise mode once in a while, but I generally just sim to the playoffs and go through that series. But for me, it's like Madden's always been passable. Like the gameplay has always been fine. I feel like it's a much more enjoyable experience than 2K, where 2K, when you just get harder, it just gets frustrating and cartoonish, where stuff
Hmm.
that wouldn't normally happen doesn't happen, where the shot meter makes it seem like your shooting percentage or your shooting rating doesn't matter at all. Like
Yeah.
contested, maybe, but like unless you hit something perfect, if you're playing hard on 2K, it really doesn't matter. So with like Madden, I feel like that's always kind of been the most consistent sports game. Like UFC benefits off of not having to release a game every single year, but I feel like games like Madden and 2K should really just be a subscription service where you pay 30, $40 a year, and then you get the update for the game, and it's essentially just a big patch for the gameplay, where I really don't think people need to pay $60 each year, where you could have like a 30 to $40 a year subscription for it, and that would be fine.
Yeah. I can agree with that. I can say one of the really nice additions that I forgot to highlight earlier that they added in the game is that the winter, like the weather games, actually mean something. So, like, for example, a snowstorm, if there's a snowstorm in the game, you can't see anything. Like, it looks like you're
That's cool.
genuinely in the game. And then if you're, like, let's say it's a really rainy game, like your running back will slip on the rain. Like, it's much more like realistic weather wise, where if the weather is not great conditions, like you have to adjust the strategy to it. So that's the part that I like as far as like the addition. Like if there's not as much glitches in the game this time around, and the additions they added, like maybe someone's dropping a pass or someone slips, it like makes sense in the game because it's downpouring or there's snow, so it makes it a little bit more like less frustrating. And I feel like the game itself is more rewarding now because you have to actually like strategize in the game, which part of me likes that. But for me, as more of a casual gamer, I also want to turn those settings off sometimes. But that is a nice feature. I think that's a nice touch to the game that I hope they continue to add on.
Yeah. Is this, do you feel like there's a, I don't know, like I feel like with Madden, it never really feels different when I play a new game. Generally, I just wait for it to be free on PlayStation Plus, or you give me
Mm.
like your disc from like the year previous. But do you feel like a major difference in the controls at all?
I think it's definitely more polished. Like it's definitely feels more slick. Running is very satisfying in that game. The movements are very fluid. So I think I mean, if you have like Madden 24 and you want to update, like this is a good one to update too. From from Madden 25 to Madden 26, I feel like it's like going from like the iPhone 14 to the iPhone 15. Like it's just like it's an update. But it's a nice update. It's a good update. I think in your case, like I would probably wait till it's 20, $30 in your case, and getting it then. And I think you'll enjoy it when you do. But I don't think you need to spend $100 on it.
Yeah. Any like additions to does the My Career feel a little bit better this time?
I mean, it feels a little bit better, but I don't think that it's. I feel like it's micro. It's very small things. Like the trainings are fun, but and there's like a little bit of a story, but I still think that compared to like MLB the Show, and 2K, like they still have a lot of work to make. Like they had the best My Career back in like the early 2000s, and they just completely abandoned it. So all they need to do is bring it back to Madden '07 level, and it'd be great. It'd be perfect, and nobody would complain. But they don't care.
Yeah, the thing like with the older Madden games is they had the quarterback vision on the field
Hmm. Yeah, the cone.
where like depending on how good the quarterback was, just you could move their vision across the field and it'd affect how your pass would be.
Yeah, that was a good feature. And then they also had like cutscenes back in the day, which you would think that if they could do that on the PS2, that they would do it in the PS5 and Series X generation. But again, like it's just one of those. They just dial it in every year. It's copy and paste for the most part. So that's kind of frustrating. The career mode is a lot to be desired so far, but I've only really played like maybe 3 or 4 hours of it. I haven't really had a lot of time to play it, so I'll be playing it more, and maybe my review will change.
Yeah, but that is the new Madden. We previewed the NFC West, and then we also went over 10 of the worst states to drive in, and so much more. Any last thoughts before we end the show?
The message that we say true to the end of every episode: make sure you always stay brick.
Stay brick.